Keto Academy, prove it. We are here right now. We are Backstage Live, and I have Dr. Adrienne Scheck here from Arizona State.
No, it's
Sun
Arizona.
Devil.
Yeah, I'm an adjunct professor at adjunct. Yeah, at Sun Devil.
Yeah, and you're a doctor. You're a scientist.
I'm a scientist.
Okay. Now, what do you?
I study
research?
brain tumors. I study brain tumors. And,
Really?
Yeah. I don't even remember how many years ago I got involved in trying the ketogenic diet for brain tumors. Actually, it was after a conversation with Dr. Zhang Ro, who's an international expert in the ketogenic diet for epilepsy, and we bumped into each other. And our labs used to be on the same floor, and it was very much almost like you see in the movies. We bumped into each other, and I asked him some question. He said, "Hey, do you want to try this? I got some kid who wants to spend like 6 months in the lab, and I've got some money to pay. You want to try it? There's this guy in Boston, Dr. Tom Seyfried, who's doing it. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'll give it to you." Okay, so we tried it,
yes,
and
please.
it looked awesome, and
The results?
The entire direction of my lab just went, yeah, and I've been looking at the ketogenic diet and cancer ever since.
Wow. Tell me about the first time you tried ketones.
Oh, this is a funny story. I had forgotten about it until Dustin reminded me. So I was at a meeting in Tampa, and I hadn't really heard of I'd heard of the exogenous ketones through Dr. Dom D'Agostino, but
Okay.
I hadn't really tried anything from Prove It. And I went up and had a cup of coffee, and he said, "Hey, you want to try this?" And he said, "We've got this with and without caffeine." I said, "Take with caffeine." I dumped it in my coffee, and he goes, "That's the orange flavor. That's the wrong stuff." And he's ready to throw my coffee out, and I go, "No, I've had orange liqueur in coffee, and it's good. Let me try this." And I said, "But I always take cream in my coffee." "Take the cream." So, yeah.
So you double dip first time?
Apparently, yes. Yeah.
And you didn't sleep for 4 days?
No, they say I was a little bit energetic, but I don't exactly know how you figure that out, because I'm normally bouncing off the wall. So I was fine. I slept just fine. It was pretty good.
Tell me about your findings. Tell me what you're finding. 'Cause it's very next level. Mm-hmm. It's very 10 years from now for the normal of what's the status quo for the public to know as far as information.
Yes, and we're trying to make that not be the case. We're trying to make that
Absolutely.
status quo now.
Absolutely.
We started looking at the ketogenic diet using a mouse model of brain tumors, and we basically started using a human ketogenic diet product, so that it was very much like what could happen with human. And we gave the animals the ketogenic diet, and we gave them a tumor, and a brain tumor, and the animals lived longer on ketogenic diet. And we said, well, this is good, but in the clinical setting, nobody's going to do this without the standard of care. The standard of care is chemotherapy and radiation. Mm-hmm. So what does it do in the animal with chemotherapy and radiation? With chemotherapy, the chemotherapy with standard diet, the mice live longer. With ketogenic diet, they lived even longer. Radiation, wow. They lived longer. You expect that on standard diet. Radiation plus ketogenic diet, not only did they live longer, but in 9 of 11 of the animals, the tumor disappeared. And when we switched them back to standard diet after about 100 days, the tumors never came back. So we got totally excited about this, needless to say. And
so how do you get that information out to the public?
Well, it's been published, so it's out there
from
that point of view. Yes.
So now even having the technology and the expertise behind now the Prove It products, what are some of the basic things that I can do by including in the Prove It products into my diet?
Okay.
Or
I'm very conservative as a scientist. I can't speak to the Prove It products because I've only studied the full ketogenic diet.
Oh, that's right.
However,
right.
Having said that, one of the ways to look at the mechanisms of how things work is to use cells that you grow in the laboratory. So we grow the cells in the laboratory, and in fact, the very, very first experiment we did before we tried the animal work is we did this. We grew the cells in the laboratory and just dumped beta-hydroxybutyrate, ketones, on them.
Dump them.
You just add it to the media that they grow in, and we didn't change the glucose, so we didn't drop the glucose. We just added the ketones, and it enhanced chemotherapy. And now we've repeated that, and again, this has been published, I think. I've said it so many times I can't remember if it's actually in a paper or not yet. But in our mouse cells, add ketones, just beta-hydroxybutyrate, it sensitizes to radiation. So the same things we saw in the animal with the full ketogenic diet, we can recapitulate or we can do in the laboratory just by adding ketones.
Wow.
So
good job.
My thought is, thank you.
That's cool.
My thought is, okay, now there's exogenous ketones. What will that do in a person? Do we want to do that instead of the ketogenic diet for cancer? I will say no. And the reason I'll say no is because I think dropping glucose is important. I think that really does help. But the ketones all by themselves do things.
Yeah.
So if you've got glucose doing stuff that's good for the patient and bad for the tumor, and you've got ketones doing stuff that's good for the patient and bad for the tumor, the thing to do is to do them both together.
Absolutely.
And that would be the full diet. Does that mean that there's no role for exogenous ketones? No, that's not what it means at all. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see what happens if you add exogenous ketones to a ketogenic diet? If you raise the ketones a little bit higher, does that make things work better? Can you do a less strict ketogenic diet? Because the therapeutic ketogenic diet is not the same as what people use to lose weight. It's much stricter, and it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. So, well, what if you add exogenous ketones? Maybe can you alter how strict you have to be? We found that the ketones sensitize tumor cells to radiation. What if you give that to a patient right before radiation? What if let's say the patient doesn't want to do the whole ketogenic diet for whatever reason.
They're not
it's too hard, they can't do it. You know, there's a lot of reasons. What if you just say, drink this right before your chemotherapy, right before your radiation therapy? Will that have a similar effect? All of these are questions that are really, really important to me, especially because I'd love to see this get into the pediatric space.
Well, I'll tell you,
we're working on that, and that would be awesome.
Because radiation on pediatric patients,
it's horrible.
It's horrible for when they get older.
Yes, it is. And you know that. About 100% of the patients are going to have problems. We've got some very preliminary data that suggests that the ketogenic diet might actually protect the normal brain from radiation damage. Which
so any
really
parents out there, you just want to give your child the best chance at life. I know I do for my children. So it is something to consider and to read up on. Prove It is leading this technology, this information out because we have had a chance to learn from some of the greatest minds. Dr. Adrienne Scheck, thank you so much for coming in. And,
my pleasure.
You know, I've only heard people brag about you and brag about your energy, and I believe it, but I'd much rather stare at your smile because you have a great smile. So thank you so much.
It's fun staring at yours too.
Let's, whatever happened to Tuesday, it's so slow. Going down to the old mine with a transistor radio. Click share on this. Standing in the sunlight laughing, hide behind a rainbow. Slipping and sliding all along the waterfall. Over you, my brown-eyed girl. You're my brown-eyed girl. Do you remember when we used to say sha-la-la-la-la? You have to sing with me.
Oh, I do?
La-la-dee-da-dee-da. We used to say sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-dee-da. Hey, that concludes our Backstage Live right now with Dr. Adrienne Scheck. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're so amazing.
Nice.
So gifted. Hey, guys, click share on this video. This is something that everyone needs to know about. For us to have this type of mind capacity and research at our own fingertips.
Thank you.
For your one market, for your circle of influence, click share. We want everyone to see this and hear the technology that's happening, that's coming out of here. Remember, Facebook.com, just prove it. Thank you so much. My name is Cafe Anderson.
We are looking at